It's been a lot worse around here before. So a little perspective and much more from one of the best players, maybe the best defensive end I actually personally ever saw play at South Carolina. And yeah, that does include Jadeveon Clowney. John Abraham was as good as I've can remember. All right, Rob, to the drama of football and then to the game of football, but we'll start with the drama first. When you're losing, everything is under a microscope. Everything, every single thing that you do, everything you say, every action that you make, every tweet that you send, every word. We live in a clip it and ship it society. So if you see a quote on social media, it's probably going to do you a little bit more to get some context and go find the entire interview and actually listen to the question that was asked and listen to the entire answer. But in the clip it and ship it world that we have, guys create things to create clicks and to create yada, yada, yada. And then that in return creates punching bags. But with all that said, Shane Beamer obviously is under a microscope right now with what's going on at South Carolina football. What's been your reaction to the feedback that he's received since Saturday? All the stuff, from the trying to fire up the crowd up 27 points, walking into halftime, to what he had to say on Sunday in the teleconference, to what he had to say yesterday in his press conference.
I think that one of my initial reaction is that it is clip it and ship it. Like for example, the halftime situation where he's firing up the crowd, that was immediately, I think, taken out of context to be that he's taunting Texas A&M fans, and that just kind of starts the downward spiral of like what people have to say. In one case, South Carolina has been on the national spotlight all week. Because Texas A&M is the top-ranked SEC team and they have a miraculous 27-point comeback, and then you have Shane Beamer doing things his way. And let's just be honest, JB, like this is how he's always been. This is his personality. And we've talked about it on here before. I've talked about it on my show. If that's who he is, then we love it when he's good, and then people are going to pick it apart when he's not. South Carolina fans don't like to hear it necessarily, but there are some similarities there to Dabo Swinney, and there's things about how Dabo runs things and speaks to the media and the way that he tries to fire people up and can be kind of rah-rah, and there's a little cheesiness at times in the way that he speaks publicly or to the media or whatever. And when Clemson is doing well, it doesn't get a ton of attention. And then when they have a year like this year, everybody wants to point it out and talk about it. The same thing can be said about Shane Beamer right now. I think that the struggle of the football team has a lot to do with the criticisms of his personality and the way that he addresses things. And one of the things that I hear so often, just from fans, this isn't even necessary, this is just in the circles in Columbia, on the street, at dinner, in random conversations, is when things don't go well on the field, and guys have a major penalty called on them, or they miss a couple tackles and give up a big play, whatever the case may be. He's always clapping and trying to get them back on course, and there doesn't seem to be a butt chewing of sorts with guys who make mistakes. That's his leadership style. I'm sure there are coaches on this team that are going to chew those guys out for making those mistakes, but Shane is going to be the positive reinforcement guy. He's going to try to pump them up. He's going to fill them with confidence because he knows they play better when they have confidence. And so when I listen to him talk, whether it's at the halftime or Sunday night or even yesterday, there's always going to be these elements of positivity. It's just exactly what I expect it to be, I think. And that's my reaction to it, is like, I don't expect him to deviate necessarily from who he is. He's going to keep receipts. He's going to make snarky comments if people are saying untrue things. Like yesterday, I actually really appreciated and liked the way that he came right out and jumped into he got in a fight with Clayton White social media storm, and just addressed it right off the top, and the manner in which he addressed it. I appreciated that. I know that some people may have had different thoughts, and I also appreciate his confidence. In one of the clips or quotes that Jordan K tweeted out, and it kind of went viral, and everybody was grabbing it, and On3 grabbed it and made a graphic, and that's exactly what you mean by clip it and ship it, is that he said that next year, this South Carolina team will be sitting around watching the college football playoff ranking to see where they fall, indicating that they will be in contention at this point in the season for the college football playoff consideration, being in that top 12. I don't expect him to do anything different. He should have that type of confidence. What do you want him to say? I mean, what is the alternative? To just kind of be downtrodden and say that, this team is no good and they don't have any talent, and you can do that sarcastically, I guess. But when you're 3-7, I appreciate the positivity, and his competitiveness is what continues to drive him to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the things that people say about him are only motivation to him to work harder. And maybe it works out for these last 2 games, JB, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe he's, if worst case scenario, these games are lost and he's not going to be the coach here next year. And if that's the case, then we'll see what happens with him in his next chapter. But if he's given an opportunity, he is going to speak positivity, and he's going to work as hard as he can to go out and put the best product on the field. I don't doubt that at all, and I think that is the heart behind the way that he has addressed it and the things that he said.
Yeah, I look. He is in a 0-win situation right now. If you're Shane Beamer, it honestly doesn't matter what he says and how he says it. There is going to be not a fraction of people. There's going to be a larger group of people who don't like it, and they're going to find a way to make it fit their narrative. The facts are facts right now. Okay, let's stick to the facts. Right now, the facts are this. They are 3-7. They had 1 win in the SEC in 8 games. That is not good, okay? It's not good, period, the end. And then, to your point, I said this other day too, I was on with Bill and Tyler on 107.5, and they asked me about him pumping up the crowd. I said, that's not the first time that he's done that, that's who he is. Now, would that be me? And this isn't me trying to fire off a shot at Shane Beamer, because I agree with you. He is who he is. Would that be me? No. But that wouldn't be me if we were 9-0 or 3-6. That's just not me. Golly, I mean, it just in general, I try to keep my head down in public. You know what I mean? But Shane Beamer is always searching for that next round of positivity to what he feels like will be helpful. And by the way, that has been helpful in his tenure as a head coach at South Carolina. He can lean back on some times when he really kept the vibe in a good spot, and it allowed his football team to not wander off into Never Never Land. They were able to respond collectively in a positive manner and win some football games. And he's acknowledged that before, in press conferences and things like that. I personally, if I'm being fair to the conversation, and I feel like that's what we should be here, I would probably pick and choose the way that I say things a little bit better. To your point yesterday, I don't know that he needed to go that extra step and say, well, we're going to be watching this show next year to see where we are in the playoff rankings. Rob, I'm with you. I understand the point of what he is making there. Look, we expect to be here. I'm going to send this message to my players, to my recruits, to my fans who are still on board with me, to my administration. They're all going to see this. I want them to know that is what I expect. I got the message, man. I get it. I probably would think about wording it a little bit differently if you're going to go that far along in that response yesterday and say it's depleting, devastating for us to know that they're having these conversations with 25 plus teams about being in the college football playoffs. We're not one of them. We were one of them last year. We were knocking on the door. We didn't get in. We are a product of our own success right now. We had success last year. We're failing this year. If we failed last year, we would have had 0 expectations this year, but we succeeded last year. And so we had high expectations. We didn't meet them. So we have to reevaluate things to be able to meet those again next year and maybe have a shot at being back in that conversation. I would word it something like that. You know what I mean? It's still a positive message. It's acknowledging that, again, you are not meeting your own expectations. Those expectations weren't set by the fans. The fans didn't expect them. It wasn't, we expect them to be in the playoffs this year. Well, why is that? Well, because they won 9 games last year and they were about to be in the playoffs. Their expectations were set by themselves, not anybody else. So, if I'm Coach Beamer, I would think about maybe wording some things a little bit differently or just not go there, because this program, and in particular him, when you're a sitting college head coach, you become the butt of every joke, like memes and all this crap that I don't even know how to make them. I don't even know how to make a meme. Do you know how to make a meme? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I see them all the time. I'm like, how do people come up with this stuff? But you become the butt of the joke, and then that spreads like wildfire. And even if what he's saying is correct, and I personally don't have any reason to believe differently. Personally, I don't. I do think that they still have a pretty solid foundation inside of that building. And at the end of the day, yes, Rob, that's all that matters, right? But when you become memes and you become this big flying joke and all this stuff, and it spreads like wildfire nationally, the outside world, like guys who might be thinking about coming to coach here, or kids who might be interested in playing here, or whatever the case is, that stuff, they don't know the difference. Yeah, they can ask, but their initial reaction, or their initial it's like your first impression is your lasting impression, right?
Yeah.
Like one of their first impressions might be, man, that place looks like a disaster with what's going on. They don't know the story. They're not close to it like we are, and then they're not in that locker room. So if I was Coach Beamer, I would probably try to word it a little bit differently when you say things like this, or maybe just stay out of certain roads. But it doesn't mean that I don't understand what he's doing, because he's doing what he's always been doing since he's been here leading the program.
Yeah, I think that people in general, as fans, right, like if they don't have the same type of personality and they wouldn't react like he does, kind of like what you said, right? Like if any, and when I say you, I don't mean you, JB, I mean anybody watching, any fan. If you were the coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks and it's halftime and you have a big lead and your team is 9-0, 10-0, 3-7, 0-10, whatever, how would you react? Now, if it's different from how Shane Beamer reacts, but this team is 9-1, everybody looks past it. They look past their differences, their personal preferences, the way that they would align, what they would say, how they would do it. Oh, well, whatever. We just scored another touchdown. Yeah. And like they just kind of glance over it. But there's so much scrutiny because they're 3-7. People have tossed all grace, any level of I'm going to look over anything, because now people want answers. Let's quote Mike Morgan here. They want a pound of flesh. And
Sure.
we got the Teasley pound, and then we got the Shula pound, and they continued to lose. And Saturday was just unexplainable, unspeakable, historical, and now people need another one. And so I think that's where the fire and the passion is being just spilled out, and people say now they're looking to everything. Now it's the expression on his face. Now it's the way that he tucks in his shirt, how he ties his shoes. Like they're going to pick apart every single thing that he does, and we're at a point where, and that's when that is happening inside the fan base, and you have less people defending him. I think it spirals a little more in the national scene as well, because there's not a lot of a wall built up of people that are going to fire back in this social media world that we live in.
Yeah, and this has become the conversation. The hiring of an offensive coordinator has become the conversation. And again, I get it. I'm not going to tell people how to feel, right, Rob? Like,
yep.
I can't stand when somebody tells me how to feel. Don't tell me how to feel. I feel the way that I feel. So folks that are on that, that extreme level with wanting to tear it down and build it back up and all those things, I mean, I might disagree with them, but that's okay. But I understand the feeling. I get it. Like, you want to see this football team have success and then
that's the
be
beauty
able
of it,
to.
right? That fans care that much. You want them to care that much.
Well,
That is the SEC. That's what sets it apart.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, why would you ever want to be somewhere where they didn't, like UCLA? You know, it's like, I don't know, if they win, they win. I don't care, whatever. We're gonna smoke a doobie and walk on the beach. But you know, here at South Carolina, it's like, no, my world falls apart when we lose.